This is Reef Beef, the show that's predicated on the idea that people are interested in what happens when reef experts and aficionados talk to each other at the end of the day of a trade show. And that's what we're doing here. What that means is there might be some language that Jesus doesn't like. And if that's the case, if you're like that, you should stop listening right now. If, however, you can take a little bit of language like regular people talk in their regular lives, keep watching. If you're in church, stop watching. Hi, my name is Rich.
My name is Ben.
And this is Reef Beef. Here we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today and see how that goes. Amongst the things we may discuss, a failing probe, diatoms and dinos, disaster planning. It's not just about power outages. Getting animals through quarantine, drilling tanks, budget shaming, and why Rich's distributed system is awesome and stupid. Maybe we'll get to all of that. Maybe we won't. This episode is sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com.
Champion Lighting and Supply.
And powered by PolypLab. Thank you for watching and welcome to the Reef Beef podcast.
Richard, what's going on, brother?
It's going pretty good. I mean, I got it in my head that I should record in front of the tank.
I like it.
Thank you. I think it's so people can tell me, people I never talk to online can get in their little Trollville and tell me how shitty my tank is. I think that would be fun.
I see an Aptasia.
No, I just felt like being in a different room this morning.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on here. It's the tank. I'm pretty happy with the tank. I did some major stuff to it in the last month or two. And it's looking pretty good, and you can barely tell anything's happened to it. So I'm pretty happy with the display as things go.
It looks amazing as always.
That is very kind of you to say. And it's so funny. I took some pictures of it. I'm going to take some more. It's such a weird tank to take pictures of.
That Melka stylo is getting huge.
Yeah, I got to chop that back. I took a big piece of it out from here, over here on the, whatever this side is to you.
My right, your left.
I took everything on this side out. I took everything on this side out on the top to dip it for worms. And this whole middle section is one piece of rock now.
Oh, no, I remember that. Well, but you have, it's funny because you only have like a couple pieces of rock in your tank, right? But they're massive.
Yeah, and this thing in the middle is not rock. It's coral grown together in a 2-foot section that is one piece now. And it started where the stylo is. It was back against the back, and now it's way forward. And there's actually a trench in the back. And oh, I put in a new thing from 4D Aquatics. They printed a new thing.
Oh, cool.
Which they say is going to be available. So I'll tell you about it because I think it's the most amazing. It's just as amazing as the scraper is, which they're working out. There was a little problem, but they're working it out. They make flow directors for MP40s, right?
Yes.
Which is a basket you put on top of your pump, and then you can just aim it. There's a disc inside, and you can aim it where you want to go. Yeah, it sounds like something you might want, might not want. Sound extra. I was talking to them, and they made ones for waves.
Oh.
And the wave pumps, and I put one on the wave pump, on one wave pump, and changed the world completely. So for me, it allowed me to aim the flow up some easily to get it above the rocks. It was my flow was just like hitting stuff now, and it needed to be adjusted up of some so it hits open water. And it was like, oh, all I have to do is move this instead of like slide the pump around and move it. You know, I can just throw the pump in, and then I can aim it. It's freaking great. And
Well,
then
that's definitely helpful.
I put one on the other side too. Did the same thing. It's like all of a sudden everything is, the mass of water is moving. So, you know, I was talking about I was adding little pumps here and there. I may be able to take them out now. It's just it was overgrowth. The other thing that's super cool about it is you can throw the pumps on 100% and then kind of hose stuff down just by moving the disc. So you can really effectively storm the tank. Anyway, I dig it.
Very cool.
Okay, we just started babbling about stuff. Let's pick one of the things that you enjoy that you think is short that you want to talk about at the beginning.
Super short one is I had this massive Tubipora musica skeleton for years and years. I remember who I got it from, but it was this guy clearing out his garage. And I never was going to put it in a reef tank because it being Tubipora musica, back in the days in the 90s when we used to do coral skeletons in aquariums, there weren't reef tanks, you know, like fish only systems, you know, sometimes we'd run copper in those. So, you know, I always knew like, well, I'm not going to put that in a reef tank, but so I'd always wanted to just crush it up and turn it into a substrate.
Oh,
And
because
so,
the skeleton is red.
yeah, and I'm thinking like you don't see, you know, red substrate, and I didn't want to. I wanted to make a red substrate from substances that had been in the ocean and not like red rocks. That would be dumb. So yesterday I put out a tarp and then I put out a towel because I didn't want to mess up my tarp, and I put on leather gloves and I just sat there. I thought for some reason I could just like you're gonna laugh at me. This is such a
Always.
Texas thing, but I thought I could just like punch it into powder. And these are like cowhide gloves. And I noticed first of all, I got partway through it, but it was like this hurts a little more. Even though I'm rough with my hands, I work with my hands, but still it hurts more than I thought it would. And it was rough, and it shows you how sharp the skeleton is because it was roughing up the gloves. But I did get it into a powder, and I will show the pictures here. And I rinsed it. It had sort of a pink residue that I was rinsing off. So what am I going to use it in? I'm going to use it in a substrate for a small fish only system, or perhaps like that Dennis, that Tiger Boy, that guy makes the like Calerpa type tanks.
Yeah.
You know, because I could, you know, the concern about copper, I could run, you know, like polyfilter, cuprosorb, any of that stuff. And, you know, if there was something in there, you know, maybe pull it out. If it's a fish only system, it won't matter. So I'm thinking of doing that and see, maybe it's god awful, but maybe it's interesting.
I'm interested to see how it stay if it stays red over time, or if benthic succession just covers it all up, or if you have enough turning, you have enough turning to keep it going.
It's too that, you know, because I thought about that like a sand sifter, but it's too sharp. It's like broken glass. I don't think a sand sifter would like it.
Yeah, you could throw it, you could smash it up more with tools instead of Jesus's hand tools. You could also throw it in a tumbler.
Yeah, and round it off.
And just let it round itself off, or just leave it, you know, because and then put sand sisters in, and it'll be your torture tank. I mean, you should put upside down jellies, put Cassiopeia in there, so they're just screaming all the time.
Oh, so that's that little thing.
Cool. I want to see how that goes.
The commercials.
Hey Ben,
Hey Richard,
how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Do you need to buy something for your aquariums?
Oh man, I probably need new pH probes for the Apex.
It's you know where you can get those.
Saltwateraquarium.com.
I thought for a second we weren't going to have a song, but then we are.
Yeah.
Saltwateraquarium.com has been a huge supporter of our show, and we really appreciate them. You can check them out at the link down below. One of the things we like about them so much is that they have 3 distribution centers across these vast United States, which means for me in California, if I order something at 10 or 11 in the morning, it usually ships the same day and I get it pretty quick. Yeah, oh, they've got an app right there, so you can buy stuff while you're on the toilet or while you're driving. We think while you're driving is the best time to order Reef stuff because, you know,
Absolutely.
why not? So check them out. Use the link below and tell them we sent you. Thanks a lot.
The commercials.
Speaking of that, we're going to now share my screen and I'll show you a video. This I've expanded, and I know I keep saying I'm going to make a video and show you everyone and you, Ben, what I'm doing, expanding the lab. But what I've got back there now, and part of it is 2 cephalopod tanks. One has got an octopus in it, Humalinky, who is not as smart as I'd like him to be. And the other one has got Metasepia, flamboyant cuttlefish in it.
Oh, those are
Are
cool.
super cool. So I started these at the same time. And I want you to look at the substrates. So in the first one, let me make sure the volume's down. There we go. So this is the octopus tank. And you can see the substrate looks pretty good, right? Oh, there's an
Yep.
octopus. That's
Oh,
always
there he
fun.
is.
Substrate's
Latched
pretty
onto the sub.
clean,
Yeah.
right? And what's going on? Why do I think it's clean? Oh, nope. Now we're going to move over. Oh, look at the Metasepia tank.
Oh, it's filthy.
Look how filthy it is. But why
Diatoms and such.
why is it not filthy on the front edge? What's going on?
Oh,
What's
they're so
that about?
tiny. They're so
Yeah,
tiny.
they are tiny. But what's going on? Yeah. What?
Do they get, how big do they get?
About 3 inches.
Okay.
But we don't care about them right now. We don't care. Stop looking at the pretty, awesome animals that the whole point of this endeavor is to keep pretty cool animals. Look at the algae. Oh my God. Don't worry about the size. There's no snails in there yet. But whatever dinos or diatoms are going on the ground in this tank, you can totally see it along the front, and even more so, a little bit more around the sides, there's a strip of pure white sand, right? What's the deal? And why in the octopus tank is the sand also white? Oh,
Does the octopus like turn everything over?
Yeah. So the octopus is constantly jerking around in the sand. There's also a couple urchins in there, but I don't think they're doing anything. Tanks start at the same time, bag sand, everything's the same. The Metasepia tank doesn't have urchins running around in the tank or any other snails or anything yet. And it just started to do that. And I'm leaving it a little bit and adding things one at a time. So what do I think? People are always chasing nutrients to deal with pests like algae or diatoms or dinoflagellates, right? But we can see in this tank, 2 tanks next to each other, same water. One tank has them, one doesn't, and one has a clue about why we don't, right? So I think people bust their brains and their wallets and their minds trying to get rid of pests via manipulation of water quality. Now, I don't think that's a terrible thing to do. I just think, man, everyone's looking for the magic bullet. You know, we're talking about magic bullets again. And the magic bullet, just like with algae in this display tank, which there's almost none, or if there is, when I find it, it means that my herbivores are weird, which just happened. I put herbivores in, they cleaned it all up. Small urchins. It's just a sand moving issue. So you get stuff that moves your sand. And I think it's the same with cyano. I think it's all of these things instead of, and if you dig it and you think it's awesome to try to figure out how to manipulate the water quality to have an effect on these things, go for it. But if you just want them gone, add stuff that mixes up your sand. And if it's turning your sand over, that stuff can't grow.
You know what would be fun to see on those 2 tanks is a time lapse of what's going on.
For what? Of the animals or the...
Yeah, like if you could see, like you see the clear paths in the flamboyance, you know, they're just sort of pacing back and forth and fiddling with stuff, but not messing with the rest of the tank.
Oh, yeah. They are totally... What happens is they see their reflections or they see food reflections. So they come to the edge and they're looking at their reflections.
But then I wonder in the octopus tank, like the octopus is everywhere and the urchins are like all over the place.
Yeah. And the octopus is always looking for food. So he's always moving around. Now, yeah, the diameter of the sands, now that I'm looking at them, are a little bit different. The octopus one is coarser, but it's the same thing. If we just look at the Metasepia tank, you can see the white tracks, and that's not magic. So what do you use to mix up the sand? I like Neisseria snails. I think they do a really good job because they go into the sand and then they come out of the sand when it's time to eat. You have to feed them, though. If you forget to feed them, they all die off. Anything else that mixes the sand, will just mix the sand.
Sometimes I use those sand sifting stars, but you know, they last for a long time too. Again, you got to feed them as well.
Right. And there's some idea that they may eat beneficial stuff. So if you're like Alex and I were talking about this, if you've got a giant 80,000 gallon tank in your house, what is it? It's like 4,500 gallons. It's got a lot of surface area. Probably has no problem adding any of those sand sifting stars. Cucumbers are another good one. I just added a cucumber into the Metasepia tank today, so we'll see how that does. And then, you know, my theory is that if you get that problem so it looks like something's happening, you'll be much more willing to let it ride over time than to think you need to blast it with something. So that's my thought there. Turn the sand. Just, you know, if you got stuff on, if you got the dinoflagellates or dinos or cyano on your rocks, get stuff that picks up the rocks all the time. It's just another version of flow, really. So
I'm also a big fan of goldhead sleeper gobies and orange diamond gobies.
yeah, yeah, those things can be great, and they can keep your sand turnover. Also, Gammarus amphipods, the bigger ones that look like pill bugs, those are pretty cool too. Hey, and people listening, am I crazy? Do you think I'm insane? Let us know in the comments. I'm actually really interested in what people have to think about that. I'm interested in what people have to think about almost everything, but this one for sure, because it's like we have practical solutions staring us in the face, but somehow we want to manipulate our water quality and make it magically go away. And I think that's crazy. A little bit of, like you say all the time, there's a little patch, just blast it with the baster or suck it out and leave it. And, you know, if you have to do that every time you look at the tank, big deal.
Well, so too, there's animals that do this successfully. I'd rather see that than someone mess with some weird, it's the new chemical that gets rid of blah, blah, blah by manipulating the chemical properties of your water. It's like,
yeah. You know, and I know ChemiClean works. You know, you can put that in and it'll take care of cyano. It will most of the time, sometimes. People report successes. Some people report nothing happens, but it still really feels to me in this age of when we're starting to look at microbiome and what's going on in the tanks, you spend all this time making the tank delicious, and then you throw something in and you're not really sure if that's undeliciousing the tank. Maybe someone has done a couple of pre and posts microbiomes on ChemiClean.
I believe they have
at least a month or two out, because you want to see how it recovers. If that's you, get in touch with me. I'd like to see that data and see what bacterial populations changed and what didn't. I'd like to see that.
Didn't Telegram Jim do that? And also I think Andrew Bauma did.
I don't know. Those guys test everything all the time, but I don't know. You know, that's the thing. If it's just in a video, I don't know what to do with that. You know, I got to dig through some video to find where you said in an interview that something happened. That's kind of why I'm saying if you have that information, send it to me, and I would encourage you to write it up, or just it doesn't have to be crazy, or I could write it up with you, or whatever you want to do, and we'll get it in a place where it's searchable and findable, right? Because if that data is good, we want to see it.
The commercials.
Champion Lighting and Supply. It's the best place to get supplied with champions and lightings.
Yeah, Champion Lighting and Supply. Todd, huge supporter of the hobby. It's incredible how Todd's got a store and Champion Lighting, and Todd knows everything that's going on. So I love talking to Todd. I'm thrilled that Todd has decided that Todd likes us and is supporting us and supports us a lot. It's great. Champion Lighting and Supply, they've got what you need. You can find a lot of stuff there. And the best thing, the most amazing thing, and I think they're the only supplier I know of that does it, is what, Ben? What do I like so much?
Oh my God, you put me on the spot. Well, I know you like
cardboard.
Aphasia.
It's a cardboard.
No. They have a machine where they take their old cardboard and it like crinkle cuts it, and that's their packaging. I can tell you, it's great that it saves the planet, but the other thing is, like, you know, when you order wholesale like I do, you getting all those packaging peanuts from other companies. I hate those.
Dude, we live in a hobby that should care more about the planet, because without the planet, we've got no hobby. I guess you could say that about every hobby, but let's not get caught in that weed right now. And this is something practical that they can do that actually makes a difference. We are not putting a million pieces of bubble wrap or packing peanuts into the environment. So I dig it. I dig it.
Order from Champion only if for any other reason, only because they crinkle cut cardboard.
That's right. And in the notes, just write, you don't want Colton to pack your order. No Colton.
It might not even make it to you.
Champion Lighting and Supply. Check them out.
The commercials.
Hey,
So
Richard.
Yeah.
I have a little thing.
Tell me your little thing.
I had a successful outcome with using an antibiotic on a somewhat expensive fish, and I'm super elated about it.
Okay, so just to make sure this is clear, we're not talking about medicating the tank to get rid of disease. You had a sick fish, you put it in a QT and gave it a dosage of antibiotics to attack a problem that you knew about.
Yes.
Tell us everything.
So ordered a big order wholesale, because I had a client with a fish only system that wanted a large, species angel. So the first one I went for was a maculosus. Got him in copper. But as you know, copper is a it's an immunosuppressant slight, and also a appetite suppressant a little bit. So if a fish is coming in with some little bacterial challenge on his skin, the being in the copper is not really going to help them much for that. But I had taken BioPure blocks and built like a little house.
Yeah.
In preparation, because I was like, I want this angel come in. I want him to be chill and hide in this house. Well, that actually worked against me.
Yeah.
Because he hid quite successfully in there for 3 days. And I was like, I'm going to leave him alone. But you need that observation. So when he finally comes out, he had the most gnarly side wound on him. It was popping up. God, dude, nearly like 3/4 of an inch. It was like blaring out of him. It was insane.
Wow, and you didn't see that upon initial inspection?
No, and that's what's crazy, because it what must have been a tiny cut, and I get him in the bag, and I look and I get him out. So I would have seen something like that. So it developed over 3 days.
Or maybe he did it in the tank?
I sort of doubt that, because it was only, like I said, it was only 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
But and I'm sure, so even though maculosis get big, when you order what's called they say large or extra large, these angels, they're about the size of your hand.
Yeah.
These ones like this, that's hard to get. And those are like show size.
Like 18 inches.
Yeah. But so, I'm sure they get in all sorts of scrapes and whatnot at being caught and then in the place and then, all this stuff. But, so anyways, I lost that maculosis because that cut, or that wound was so raging. I didn't barely have time to do anything. I started setting up another system to do this and that. I didn't have an antibiotic on me, and it died. And then I went in our Discord and I was sort of like, oh, woe is me. I lost this maculosis and it wasn't very cheap, and that sucks. And so Todd sent me, without me ordering it, he sent me a container of NFG. I think it's nitrofuranone green.
Yep.
But it's a good broad spectrum antibiotic. So then I tried again from the same wholesaler, mind you. So I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not going to name them. But I got a blue face angel.
My favorite angel.
Gorgeous. And I love to sit with in that one. Well, it used to be Euxiphopup xanthometapon, but I think they put it back in Holocanthus and they did away with Euxiphopups.
Yeah, it's Acanthanus panthanathanathalus.
There you go. But and damn it, I put him in, the 145 that I have with copper in it, and he got a side wound. But I went into our Discord, and there's Vincent Melendez and also a bunch of other people, Ichthyo Geek, a bunch of other people that talk to me. I'm like, damn it, I got another big old side wound on this fish. And Todd was like, hey, use that NFG that I sent you. And I was like, okay, and I went real quick and I did some on Humble Fish, did some studying about NFG. NFG will literally annihilate any biological. So it is completely pointless to put it even in a quarantine, like a coppered quarantine with your little biofilters and all this stuff. what I did is I moved them to a 10-gallon aquarium, because how you treat that is huge water changes every single day, and then re-administering the NFG with, air bubbles. And there's no need for a filter at all, just air bubbles, a heater, and a PVC piece, because the NFG will obliterate any sort of biological activity.
Yeah. It's basically tank transfer method, except you're getting new water every day and new antibiotic every day.
When it's great, and I'm lucky because I have 8 aquariums in the house and a 300-gallon vat in the garage. So, I mean, all I did was transfer from my Reef tank into there every single day. Siphon out the NFG laden water, put it in the toilet, and then the recommendation was do at least a 25% water change daily. But I was like, screw it, and did like 80%, 90% water changes. And it was funny too, because I could have measured it on a gram scale, but I was putting NFG on my like cooking gram scale on a plate, and it wasn't really registering. So maybe it was just too fine of an ask for that
Yeah.
scale.
Better
So
scale.
yeah, so instead I converted it into a measurement, and then it sucked because it wanted, for a 10-gallon aquarium, it wanted 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then so I go and I'm looking at my cooking stuff, which I had reservations about using cooking spoons for NFG as well, but I was like, hey, you can rinse it. But the closest thing I could find was a 1/4 teaspoon. And then so I was like eyeballing half of that for a while. But then on Amazon, and now I love it. And I get so excited about the stupidest little things, but I have a little 1/8 of a teaspoon little measuring deal made out of metal. And so, every day siphon water out, and, 14 days. And now he's back in the QT. And on top of that too, and I asked Vincent and looked at Humblefish too, because I didn't know, with these big wounds on fish, I never know whether, like, hey, is that from inside, like urinema and busting out, or is it from the outside and eating into their body?
Yeah.
And so Vincent was like, man, use Metro, you know, metronidazole, but Metro.
Yeah.
And one time from this wholesaler, I'd also gotten an amount of, thank you, gotten an amount of this food that I like now, and I need to order it now. They got me hooked. Nutrimar. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Nutrimar. Is this the medicated Nutrimar or just
It
regular?
wasn't the medicated Nutrimar, but this little jar, and but the food is like sort of pellets, but it's soft and squishy, which I like.
Yeah. Soft pellets are pretty great.
And man, I just put them, I didn't use Focus because I just put the Metro in the container, closed it, and just shook it. And since these pellets are soft, squishy, and a little sticky, man, the Metro stuck all over it. And lo and behold, this blue face, oh my God, he loved, it's almost all I could feed him was the Metro laden Nutrimar. Because
Fantastic.
I would throw him in there, and he was so nuts for him. Then I have access to every dang food I have in my freezer, like 30 different kinds. And he'll pick at things, but he loves that Nutrimar. So I was like, damn it, now I guess I got to go buy Nutrimar. But he's back in the QT system. It left a little scar. So I don't know, over time, will the scar go away? It looks like misplaced scales, sort of.
Yes.
But
Sometimes those go away. Sometimes they don't.
it doesn't matter. He's alive, and he wasn't cheap. So it's like,
Fantastic.
yeah. So,
Fantastic.
I mean, obviously, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've spoken about this before. My weak point a lot of times was diseases and medications, and of course, I've medicated things before, but this was the first time, like with an expensive fish, that I used a specific medication and pulled this off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that blue face now, and damn it, he better make it.
Yeah. That's great. So let's see. What are the important things that I would take away from what you just said? You had a quarantine to start with. You had another tank that you could move the fish into when it needed a specific treatment. You had plenty of water to be able to not mess around with what's the minimum water change I can do. So yeah, okay. So yeah, the more space and the more stuff you have to be able to take care of basic husbandry, including housing, the easier treatment becomes.
Well, and you'd want it to be a small tank, because when you're doing that much water changes and administering, also too, NFG can be hard to find, and I believe it's a little expensive as
Yeah,
well.
I don't
And
know.
and so you don't want to be medicating some giant tank.
Yeah. Well, I think with the amount of stuff you're bringing in and the fluctuation of wholesalers, and I think I know the one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they go through times when everything they're getting, there seems to be a lot of of medication needed with those animals. But I don't want to say that it's one wholesaler doing it. I think all
It's all of
wholesalers,
them.
they all, where where the animals are coming from, what their protocols, and all of that stuff. You can only try to stop,
It's
stuff
funny
from-
working at so many fish stores. I always, that's sort of like a thing too in my head because if I had a dime for everyone said that, oh, that store sucks because you get sick fish from there. It's like, dude, the best store around can give you a sick fish.
Yeah.
It's just, it is very hard. I mean, you're running a store, and it. uh, That's sort of a beef that I have. I could say that it's like an old beef.
Not
Is
on this
that
show. We don't talk about that
we
stuff.
don't talk about beefs. No, we're just people like that store sold me a fish with ick on it. Here's my
No.
beef. Whether you want to just observe, have an observation tank where I'm pretty against you go to a store, buy a fish, throw it right in your tank. I'm just telling you I'm against that. At the very least, I would want to put it in an observation tank, even if, man, I don't know anything about antibiotics or copper. I'm scared of all that stuff. Fine, just put it in this little tank and observe it. If it velvets out, if it icks out, it does it in that tank. Again, and then you take it to the step where I'm learning now, which is the true QT, where you do all these different protocols for it to try to proactively knock stuff off. But that that onus should be on the person buying that animal. Don't
Yeah.
sit here and tell me like they gave me a fish with ick on it. Man, these things come in with stuff on it.
Yeah. If unless you bought a fish that the vendor is
True.
guaranteeing to be clean, you know, you bought the fish. Don't buy it if you think it might have something you don't want to deal with. It's
Like
crazy.
Kenny at High Tide Aquatics, he does the true QT.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not picking on Kenny, but I'm just saying like if I paid Kenny extra money to 30-day QT this blue face angel and then I got it and it velveted out, I'm not saying I'd be mad at Kenny, but I'm just saying like what's the deal? Because you QT'd this. I mean, still nothing is 100% perfect.
Right.
But
But no, if you paid for a service specifically and that doesn't work out, you've got something to talk about.
yeah,
But if you're going to a store and you keep saying everything I buy there dies, you need to start looking at how you're picking animals from that store,
how
right?
you're picking animals and what you're doing when you get them to their home. That's part of your deal. And
Yeah.
I hate to be a gatekeeper or sound like that, but like if you can't figure out that part, then ultimately you're just going to get stuck at this glass ceiling in this hobby, which is not very successful.
Not very successful. Um, this is why I suggest everyone keep either an end of line tank, which is something I just made up. I realized that name, or it's a water change tank,
Mhm.
right? So you have some other tank, and all your water change water goes into there. You take water out of there, you put new water change into there from your tank into there, and new water into your system. Mine does it automatically. So I've got a tank where new stuff, if I'm worried at all about it, it just goes right into there. It's the same as the rest of the system, but anything that gets diseased in there can't get back into the rest
It
of my
doesn't. Yeah.
system. So,
That's basically what I did with that angelfish
yeah,
because all I was doing was giving my coral system a water change and putting that in the angelfish tank.
exactly. And you could automate that if you wanted to. I like it automated because I'm a lazy, and my house is already a freaking automated wired place. So why not? But if you're not, you just pour just a little bit of a double water change and boom. The thing that happens is people end up using that second tank as a tank,
Ah,
and it's not a tank.
yeah.
It's a specific use thing. So don't go too big. Don't put it in the middle of the living room. Put it somewhere else and put a heater in it and some water motion, and then you've always got a QT ready to go. So.
Yeah, it's not exactly something to look at and brag about and show people. It's
Yeah,
just
but
an end of the
That's the point. It's a utility tank, and
Yeah.
you need right now in my utility tanks. I've got cephalopods, right? They're fine. They're not going to get sick anyway. And then underneath it, I've got a tank for mysid shrimp, a tank for grass shrimp. I've got all these dirty kinds of things that sometimes die off. They're in the end of the system. I don't care if, if something goes bad, I haven't ruined everything.
Yeah.
And I don't have to mess with it so much because it's getting new water all the time. And if, I did this because the water got cloudy because there was a die off of shrimp or something. So I just went from 30,000 milliliter a day. I bumped it up to 100,000 milliliter a day. And then boom, it was clear. And boy, oh boy, the polishing filters come in handy for all these QT kind of little tank things.
Oh, big time.
So what's the point? You got a display. That's great. All the other support tanks are utility tanks. Use them for what they are. Maybe that's just a nice way to flip it in your brain, that everything's not a display, and don't make everything a display.
The commercials.
Powered by the PolypLab. We like to be powered by the PolypLab. PolypLab. PolypLab is a laboratory that they have polyps there.
That's right. PolypLab, they've been a big supporter of us too, almost from the beginning. It's kind of amazing to have the same sponsors for so long. PolypLab makes a bunch of stuff that we like. We like their Reefroids. We like their glue. We like their gluelets. We like their Genesis bio blocks. And we also like their filters, which this is not going to focus on it because we made it not focus. But these are their phone filters. They come with a couple of different colors. They clip onto your phone really nice, and they can help you get better photographs of your tank. So,
which, Richard, you need it right now because you got a Windex colored tank.
Oh, it changed to blue. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. I like the Windex. I like to pretend all my animals are in Windex.
Living in Windex.
Living in Windex. That's what I'm going to tell people from now on, which has got nothing to do with our sponsor, PolypLab. Thanks for powering us, PolypLab. Ben, give us a last sentence about PolypLab.
PolypLab is the laboratory that you use to house your polyps.
The commercials.
Hey, Richard, you have a thing about drilling glass.
Yeah, I had to drill a tank. And people always get super nervous when they drill a tank. And it's really not that big a deal. And this is a glass tank. Acrylic tank's much easier. But this is the number one thing you should do when you drill a tank, a glass tank, is make sure that the bit you have is new, is sharp, has not done 50 tanks, right? The bits are like $50. No, they're like $15, $8, right? They're cheap. So if you've done, 10 or 15 tanks, toss it and get a new blade. Your life is easier. Drilling a glass tank is really grinding. You're not cutting anything. So there's two things you want to do. You want to go slow at the very beginning and at the very end. At the beginning, because you don't want the bit to chatter. A lot of the bits, and we're talking about like drilling for an overflow, so it's like 1.5 inch hole. A lot of the bits have a central shaft that you use just for positioning, and you drill in, and then the outside of the hole saw essentially then grinds really slowly, and you get a channel. Then you can take that central part out and put the rest of the drill on how it's supposed to. Or you take that out and you start at a slight angle, and you come up, but you're really grinding a tiny start. Then you can go faster. When you get towards the end, slow the hell down a lot, right? And the faster is you're just spinning it and letting the weight of the drill kind of push the blade through. You're not actually pushing anything through. And it's not a blade. It's a diamond grinding bit. The other thing you want to do is just run a lot of water on it. So, I put it outside, put the hose on it, new bit. It actually went so fast that I got some chipping around the inside because I didn't expect it to be through so quickly. Some people say you can tape on the inside and that will help the chipping. So,
I was just about to say that. The way what the tape does for me though is when you get to the end and first of all, you shouldn't be pressing on it at that point, but invariably, it'll jump down. I use the tape to keep me from jumping down.
Yeah, and it's that jump down that makes the little clamshells.
Yeah.
I was putting a bulkhead there, so my little clamshells, the gasket is well outside of them, and it also wasn't very deep, so I don't care. You could also start it from the inside of the tank, although it's a little harder to drill that way. You can buy a little jig, you know, a little press that will help. That will absolutely help. But if you don't want to spend that money, get a piece of trash glass from somewhere, drill 2 or 3 or 4 holes before you do your tank, so you get to feel what it's like. Drilling, not a big deal if you do it right and you've practiced a little bit. You have any other drilling glass tips?
Man, okay. Drilling glass is something that I'm very comfortable because this is something that I've done probably close to 1,000 times.
With the same bit?
No.
It's just like a little nub.
No, I worked at so many places where the people that work there specialized in this. And so I've been around some people that really know a lot about drilling glass. I worked at this one place where we had a whole machine. Is from Baldwin Glass Drilling Company.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty expensive because it was the press. You set it on something, and it was the press. And I still own, I have one of those suction cup wells, those circular suction cup wells. I worked at another place where the guy would do like modeling clay and build a well. I worked at another place. I haven't seen this in a long time, but the guy used to do antifreeze, which now nowadays is like sort of weird because like
That's a mind story.
I've drilled so much with just a hose sitting on there that it's like,
So you want to put the hose on. So I don't like a well so much because you need to evacuate the material that you've ground. And if you're using a well, although the glass pretty much settles pretty quickly to the bottom of the well, it's still floating around in there. It's just in the way. I'd rather rinse it clear and get rid of it. And I guess if you have to drill it inside, you know, you're using a well. But if you use a well, man, it's so much easier just to let the water run.
You know, the other thing about the tape under, when I'm talking about, you know, you have where your hole's going to be and you go underneath that on the other side of the glass and put some sort of tape. The other thing I like too is because there has been times in the past where I was drilling not a thin tank, but a thinner tank, and that plug that falls out fell and fucking cracked the other side of the glass.
Okay, so
fell down on.
I'm going to change my mind about tape for that reason.
Yes.
Always tape it just to catch the plug.
Now, I think a lot of the times that won't happen, but I remember I was drilling a 40 breeder for someone and it just went whoop, and cracked the other side.
I know this plug stayed in the, oh no, it didn't. It fell. It did fall. So yeah, always tape it. And it might help with the clamshelling. It'll definitely help you feel when you've broken through a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can grind a little bit, you know, you can tilt the drill as you're drilling a little bit. It's but that's after you've established your first groove and before you've hit the bottom. When you're first starting, you want to be as level as you can, stuff like that.
You know, I had never been around. You mentioned earlier you knew of a diamond bit that had a central shaft. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I went on Amazon and they've got the central shaft and the instructions say, you know, start with it and then remove it. I'll get the link. I'll get the link.
Because I never had that. What I always did is what you mentioned. You come in it doesn't have to be major, but a little slight angle. And at least get your groove cut. But oh my God, you know, having done it so many times, like I hate it when you're going too fast and you chatter and it's like, dude, yeah.
And the thing that's so cool about the bit, and I bought a 2-pack because it was like, why not, right? To get the central shaft out, there's an Allen wrench on the outside of the bit. So you just go tink and it comes right out. Put it in, you know, you don't have to take everything apart like you used to do to get that middle piece out. So it's pretty great. I'll put a link up, but I'm pretty sure you just look for it and they all kind of have it now.
There's a place I worked at that had a big thick slug of glass where they had appropriate size holes, whatever one you wanted. Like, cause a lot of times we did 1 3/4. And so you could sort of clamp it down and then start in there without making it chatter. That was kind of cool.
It's a jig. That's really a great idea. Yeah.
The last thing I had to say about it is the late great glass aquarium making company Oceanic. They had a cool machine that would drill from both sides simultaneously to make that so they would close to meet in the middle, and then you'd withdraw one. So any of that, it'd never make a clamshell. Any of that,
Right.
whatever from drilling through would happen in the center of the hole.
That's great. There's a couple ways you can do that, but it gets crazy when you start doing that.
I don't
What?
think people could do that. That's just like a company, you know?
Yeah, well, you need the device.
Yeah.
I suppose you could drill just a pilot hole and then start from one side and then go to the other side, and the pilot hole would keep it where it's supposed to go. But the people screw up glass drilling when they rush, when they don't use enough water to get your dust to go away and to keep everything cool, when they don't have the right equipment, and when mostly they've never practiced before.
Oh, here's one other thing. You have to be sure that you're not drilling into tempered glass also.
Yeah, which can be the bottom
Yeah.
of the tank.
But it's weird. There's
generally
been like certain companies, because I hear that I think it's that tempered glass is cheaper. So if you like buy a cheap brand, sometimes they'll put it on the side, but they'll generally sometimes use tempered on the bottom because it's a little stronger. But if you drill into it, it just shatters.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
You can sandblast or water jet a hole through tempered glass. And companies around, a glass company will probably do that for you if the tank is small enough. So there you go. I'm gonna hit it one more time. Why not? Practice drilling holes in glass. Don't just attack your tank, man.
No, for sure that, and for my part, I will also say drilling holes in glass is definitely one of those things where you hear it at first and you're like scared. You're like, I never done that before. I'm not, but it is definitely one of those things that as long as you get all the pointers down and know what you're doing and do it correctly, it's really not that big of a deal.
It's not a big deal. I was through this glass so fast. I was like, I was like, I'm going to take half an hour. I was through in 6 minutes, Yeah. It's my brand new bit. Ooh, yummy.
Oh, for sure. If you notice it taking longer than that, just stop and get the new bit.
Yeah. Because glass is stronger than whatever you're using to grind it, essentially. Tell me about a failing probe.
Oh my God. So that happened yesterday. Apex system on this client's about 15 minutes away. Again, I need to go through and set up alarms on everything, but you and I could talk about that.
Just tell me what happened, because I saw this go by on the Discord, and I think I asked, did you check the probe for fouling? And the other thing is, did something dose? Because it's a pH probe, right? And then it jumped up and it came down, and that jump does look like if I add 500 mil of caulk at a time, I see the jump.
It's such a jacked up situation. It's a funny story, actually.
Is there feces and blood?
There's not, unfortunately.
Oh, that was my favorite kind
unless it came from me. So randomly checking my clients' Apexes on my phone. What the crap? This one guy's pH, the graph shows that it had gone up to 12 and was now sitting at 8.9. And so I text him right away. Very wealthy individual. He's out on the lake fishing. And so he's like, but what sucks is it's a small office building where it's him and some other different companies. So I have the key to his door, but it's a weekend. And so it's the kind of place where like the main door isn't always open. It's like magnetically locked. And also the building owner is cool, but no one's given me a key to that one.
Right.
So I text him, I'm like, hey, your aquarium says it's doing something weird. I wonder if I could get in there. And he said, well, sometimes on the weekends, some people are there. So if you want to go by and check it out, because I'm looking at him, like, according to this chart, I was expecting his tank to be dead. The only thing I could think of, cause that's part of my job. The second something's going wrong, I'm like, boom, what could it be? He's got this, he's got that. Could it be this? Could it be that? I'm game planning that in my head as I'm driving. And so the only thing it could have been is he's got a vast K1 caulk stir on there. And some people are going to cringe on this, but I've been running it like this for 12 years. The caulk stir sits inside of his sump. Some people are going to freak out about that. but it's never been a problem. So I was thinking in my head, what did the freaking stir fall over inside the sump? You know, but there's nothing around it. It's not that complicated. It's nice and clean and spacious. There's no way it could like randomly fall over. Um, and so I was like, is it that? And then it's run by a dose. It's not, I don't tie caulk to ATO. That's a huge no-no. So the dose just dose, what do I do in his tank? I think it's 4,000 mils every night. But it's a 300-gallon aquarium.
Okay.
Um, and so I was like, but I'd never heard of a dose failing on, right? Have you heard of a dose failing on?
Maybe, but not really. Do you, I mean, does it start? Oh, I don't get the time on this. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the still.
Yeah, it's maybe too close, but I started at, you know, an hour or two after the lights have gone off, and they go all the way until like an hour before the lights come on, because that's me trying to combat the dip, even though it's funny, it doesn't.
The dip is not much.
The
It's at
dip
like,
isn't.
it looks like it's between 8.9 and 8.1.
When that's what's funny is
No,
someone
no,
else.
7.9 and 8.1. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
put
sorry.
in the comments down below, but I know it sounds crazy, but you know, and I have all these tanks out there and apexes on them, and it's like you think you can just run caulk at night and it's gonna really combat the dip. It might a little bit, but in my experience, it doesn't a lot. Like you think you could like even that dip out, and it, like I said, it might do it by a point one or something, but it just doesn't seem to.
Yeah, well, it depends on how much you're dosing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This is how it's so cool how the hobby French telephones itself, you know, over time. We started the idea about doing caulk at night was because it can help balance out the swing, not to balance out the swing. It's if you're doing caulk and you're concerned about the swing, if you do it at night, it can help balance it out, but it's not a cure because you have to add so much caulk to bring the pH up. And when people try to do that, they better be watching their alkalinity too, because your alkalinity goes nuts, which is why I love the Trident and you know, or any automated alkalinity tester.
Yeah.
I think that's a worthwhile thing to have. So there.
So I drive up, and the first thing I see in the parking lot, a couple cars. Cool, someone's here. So because I you know, he's on the lake, and I drive up, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can get in here. So I see that, and then the doors are magnetically locked. So one of them's like crooked a little bit. So I was like, oh, cool. So I go in, and at this point, it's funny. I start running because I'm like, this is one of my best tanks out there, and it's almost 13 years old. And I start running because I'm like, if this apex is correct, this tank is Fucksville, and this guy's tank has never been. It's a badge of pride. It's never been jacked up in the 13 years I've been doing this. So I get to his door, I unlock the door, and man, I'm flat out running around the corner to his thing, and it's funny, I sort of like jump in front of his tank, and I'm like, what the hell? It's A-OK. And no coral in there. It's not as complex as your tank, but it's quite old, and it's pretty damn full, similar to your tank. And I'm looking at every coral, and it's like, man, if this thing had gone to 12, you know, there's no way.
If the pH was with 12, you got a problem.
Well, and then it sucks too, because, you know, all this happens so fast. And I realized like I don't have like a separate thing where I can double check someone's pH. You know what I mean? And so now I'm going to go grab that. So at least I have something like that, like a handheld pH meter.
Some kind of pH pen.
Yeah. And so I'm checking his tank. I look underneath. Okay, the caulk reactor's there. It's fine. It didn't tip over, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at the fish, everything, you know, it was like, okay. And, you know, and here's where it gets sort of funny. I was like, I need to at least pull the pH probe out and clean it. I like doing that with 10% muriatic acid. So I go to my truck, and then
oh, you idiots.
I go to
I know exactly what's going to happen right now.
And so I'm like, I made a little batch of 10% in a coffee cup that I got out of his office and everything. And I go back to the door. I closed the door too hard. It wasn't crooked anymore, and it magnetically. So it's like a 4-level building. And I had done this before in the past. I went around the building and had knocked on windows Because I'm like, if someone's here on the first floor, I could say, but then again, you know,
look at you. You look like, we'd like to call you Reef Jesus, but really, you look like Reef Meth Head.
yeah.
So, you
And
know,
I
hey,
have to be honest about that and admit that, like, you know, different people could say different things, but you know, maybe someday I should get my hair cut. But like when I'm working, I used to do a ponytail, but I don't like it. So I use my Reef Beef thing. But, and I have to admit this, it does look like a do-rag. I, I've been doing it now for years and my clients don't say anything. Can we argue that it's professional or not professional? It is what it is. I feel like I'm an artist and whatever. But if I'm knocking on a window outside of your thing and you open it and here's me with a do-rag.
you're wearing a tank top that says "I love meth" and like
Yeah,
cut off
pointing
shorts.
at the door, and it's like, no, dude, get out of here. So it's funny. I'm sitting there holding a coffee cup full of muriatic acid, banging on the door, and then I'm like, I could go knock on windows, and I'm like, you know what? But it's funny. At that moment of panic I had in my head, it's like, I'm not getting back in. Okay, then I was like, oh shit, like what state did I leave his tank in? And I'm like feeling my pockets and I'm like, I have a separate keychain with you know, I don't have it on my car keychain, a separate keychain with clients if I have to have a key. And so I'm like, okay, I left that on his desk, but I did leave his office door unlocked, but I didn't turn on or off anything. And the other thing, I was like, calm down because you have an apex on his tank. So I didn't alter anything because I was like, oh, if I shut off his main pump or if I did this, I was like, it's okay, I can still control it. And I was like, well, damn it. But I did text him right away and I was like, sir, hey, sorry you're on the lake fishing, but I told him what I did. I locked myself out, but all I did was leave the keys on there. But your door's unlocked. He's like, I don't care about that. And I was like, okay. I was like, damn it. So now, you know, today is Sunday, we're recording this. So Monday I've got to go, you know, I'm looking at it now too. And that's what I was confused about. And I asked on our Discord, I was like, has anyone ever seen a pH probe fail upwards? I've
Well,
never really heard of that.
it popped up and then it came down and settled again.
Which still right now it says it's like 8.8, but it's like, you know,
Yeah.
and I've had stuff like Astorina starfish sit on it, Calcareous tube worms get on it, sponges grow on it.
I get micro brittle stars inside the probe.
They party on the bulbs.
Like next time I clean one, I'll when you shake it out, you get like 40 cc's of freaking dead brittle stars. So I'm really actually, hey, if you're listening to this now or watching, put down below what do you think happened to Penn's pH probe? Why did it fail like that? Is it a simple answer or did it just bork?
So on Monday when I get there, I'm going to have a separate way to check the pH, see if it's definitely that. I'm going to clean. I don't think I'm going to clean the probe. I think I'm going to take it off. It's about 1.5 years old, and it's the double junction from Apex.
See, I've got some of those. I don't even want to. No, I do want to. I've got some that have been, you know, for 6 years, pH probes.
That's what I've heard. I see. I have it stuck in my head that recalibrate it once every 6 months and throw it away once a year. And hey, I'm not going to shy off of where I got that from. It was like a BRS video. And hey, no Schadenfreude or whatever, but I'm just saying like, oh, of course, turn it into a consumable because moolah.
Yeah.
But you know, and then
funny.
I asked our Discord and I found out that like people keep them for years and years.
It's so long. Once in a while I'll test it in a solution, and if it's reading pretty close, I'm fine. Because as long as it's trending well, I actually don't really care what the numbers are. I know that's a weird thing to get people's heads around. You know, I don't actually know if my pH in my reactor needs to come down to, you know, 6.4. That's just where the numbers are, where my reactor seems to be most effective right now. Do I really give a crap if it's really 6.6? I don't care. I just want it to work. I think there might be something jammed in the probe. Although it's pretty abrupt rise. It went straight up.
Yeah, it shot up to 12 and then came down a little bit and then came down to, but man, yeah, it really bugs me. But the only thing I have stuck in my head is his tank looked fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I can't really believe that it's that.
Yeah, and probes do go bad. You know, if I had a probe that jetted up and then I looked at it and I cleaned it, you know, I put it in DI water in case anything's in there, it kills it. Then put it back in, see what it reads, and then even calibrate it. If it was reading goofy, just toss it at that point. They
You
are
know,
consumable.
yeah, you know what the first thing I'm gonna do, because I carry, since I do this for a living, I carry a backpack that has all sorts of stuff that I may need in the backpack. Well, I keep on hand a bunch of 7 pH packets and 10 pH packets and some 4 pH packets
Just in
for I
case.
have one client that has a calcium reactor. But so, and this is a good idea. What I do even before, if I think like, hey, is this pH probe okay? The pH packets are pretty cheap. I'll get like the 10, open it and clean the probe and get it in there. Is it reading close to 10? You know, so before I would
Right.
even go through with calibrating, like, is it acting fine anyways? All right. If I open the 10 packet, get it in the 10, give it a little time to settle. If it's reading real close to 10, then fuck it, I just put it back. If it's not, then I go through the little calibration process. But first thing I want to do is open up I might do a 7 and put it in a 7 and see, like, I just, after it going up to 12 and coming down though, I just don't trust it.
Yeah, well, take a look, because I've had that happen. And then I look in the probe and there's bacterial goo growing around the bell of the probe. And it's pick that right out, it's fine again.
Yeah, that's
So
true. If it is dirty, I'll give it a
yeah,
second chance. But if it's not dirty and did that, I'll shit can it.
yeah, that seems fair. Um, it's a couple interesting things popped to mind, and I can't wait to find out what happened. Is that, you know, the probe could fail anytime. You could calibrate it, it could fail the next day. You could get a brand new probe, you could put it in, it could fail the next day. You know, so the idea of when to change a probe or when to change things, you know, I had a consult with Marty. Hi, Marty, if you're listening. Marty was thinking about changing his tank because, you know, it was a used tank and it's been up for 5 years, you know? And so we had the discussion of, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, it's likely not to just spring a leak, right? You know, this tank's been here for 20 years and it was used, and I'm having the same thing. Should I replace it? But at the same time, a brand new tank could leak as well, right? There's, yeah, I'd have to take this down, put the new tank in, fill it, and leak test it in place and hope that it doesn't pop a seam then or in 6 months or whatever. So part of me is like, just let it ride. So it's the same thing with probes. They could break anytime or they could not break anytime. And it's up to you to decide how often you feel like you want to replace it. And of course, the people selling the probes are going to tell you to replace them all the time, because that's, you know, is that best practice? Maybe.
Well, and just a
it's definitely the most expensive practice, which is great for anybody selling probes.
and just a quick thing, like I think I want to say old BRS videos are real near and dear to my heart. They were very informative to me as well, old BRS videos. But it's that thing that I always preach, you know, be careful where you get your information from, because if you're getting it from someone who has a vested interest in making money off you, it's going to be skewed a little bit. So, you know, of course, some of those videos where they say, how long should you have a pH probe? You know, it's going to be skewed towards like, shit can it after a year and get a new one. You know, is that true? You know, that could be argued, you know.
Yeah. So that's up to you. All information you should be looking at. You know, who was I talking to about this? Oh, I was talking to Salem about it. Oh, that's a thing we're writing. So never mind. That'll come out and you can read that. But yeah, it's you've got to question everything that's coming to you and make your own decision. This is why I keep saying, and we keep saying, you know, I don't want to give you a reef tank recipe. I don't want to give you a recipe.
No recipe.
I want to give you little recipes to help you get going on every different part. But if you want to be successful in this, and that's the kind of people who I think we're talking to in this show, you know, we're not talking to rank beginners necessarily. This isn't a show for that, right? This can help inform that, but you got to have working understanding, a working modeled philosophy in your own brain about what's going on in your tank so you can make decisions that you think are best. And you'll be wrong. I'm wrong. I thought Cuddles won't jump. One of them jumped, which sucked. So there's always stuff you have to make choices, and no one can make them for you. You have to think critically, know what you believe, and try it and see if it works. So it's the same thing with this here.
That's why I'm arguing. I hear so many people say, well, people that are in stores, when someone comes in, you know, and a potential client will say, I want to do saltwater, but it seems expensive and difficult. And I get grumpy because I hear people say, oh, it's not that expensive and it's not that difficult. I'm sorry, but my position is it's a little expensive and it's complicated.
Right. I agree. And the same with some reptiles. You know, it's like, no, this is, you want the easy reptile, here's the bearded dragon, and here's the kit. And you're
Oh
still
my God, like true chameleons. Like people see like a panther chameleon, like, oh, I want one of those. And you know, if you're in a store, like, oh, dude, I want you to buy it. Dude, if you've never kept a reptile before, you're not going towards true chameleons. That's more advanced.
It's another reason why I think the beginner idea of, oh, okay, you want this? I really suggest you do this all-in-one 20-gallon tank for 6 months.
Richard, it's so funny because it's like what's behind you. Like people see this video and they see what's behind you, and the feeling is, you know, I applaud it, but it's like, holy crap, I want that. And I want you to have that, but you don't wake up and have that. It's not like
this
that.
is 45 years of experience, and this has been in place for 20 years. Now, you know, I could get a tank up now faster, I think. You know, I think in a year or two that a new tank would look great, but
for sure on this side of the fence. Same thing with me.
You know, you don't go to the martial arts school and go, I want to be doing, you know, a helicopter back spin kick.
1 week later, holy crap, I'm a black belt.
You know, I want to learn how to do a backflip. It's like, yeah, okay, well, that's a year until we actually do a backflip with you, you know.
Well, if you think that, didn't you watch Karate Kid? He had him sanding the fence and waxing his car. What does this have to do with karate? You got to do that crap.
Yeah, paint the fence.
Paint the fence,
bitch. I'll close out with one last thing, and then the rest of it we'll save. There's another. I want to talk about budget shaming, but unless you get very excited and remember after I get done with this, since we're talking about Apex, and it always goes into disaster planning for me. So disaster planning for you is to have a spare probe around, right? Which I do, which I'm sure you do too. I have a spare probe of everything, except for ORP, because I don't care. And I probably have 2 spare ORP probes because I don't care. When they came with the kits, they're still out there. I forgot totally what I was talking about now.
I don't pay much attention to ORP, and that probe is so expensive.
Right. You spare stuff. I sidetracked myself because there was something else that went bad, and I bought a backup of it recently. I can't remember what it is.
pH probes for sure. I have several of them.
Yeah, it's just always, you know.
But just disaster planning, the things that don't cost you too much and you could have sitting around.
And are critical. If you're running a calcium reactor, you want to have pH probes around, because if they go bad, you want to swap it out. Was it impellers?
Yeah,
no, because
for needle wheel skimmers for smaller ones.
I changed the orientation of my calcium reactor pump because I think that's what was making the impellers swell. I think in the calcium reactor it gets hot as well, so it might just be the heat. I might have too big a pump. But here's what happened the other day, because it's Apex has pushed out a bunch of updates, right? So so disaster planning just isn't for power outages, right? You might as well disaster plan for everything. On any kind of controller, or at least on the Apex, I would assume it's possible on other ones, you can kind of back up everything, right? So there's 2 ways you can do it on Apex, and right now it's time to do it. Do it now. Do it, and then put it in a folder on your Google Drive and email it to yourself so you have these backup files, right? And just do them regularly. They won't always come in. They won't fix everything magically. They won't always be the thing that you need. But when something goes wrong with your programming or your Apex borks, boy, are you going to be really happy you have a PDF of all the programming in your Apex that you can just copy and paste back into your Apex if you need it.
Well, shit,
Just
that's like writing. If you're writing a paper, you save it, because what if you get to the end of it and it's like,
and the Apex will do it. You go to the summary, and then you can click the print icon and save to PDF instead of print to a printer. And then you have it. And it took you 12 seconds and it's there. Then you also have a record of, and then change the date, change the name of it to the date and which Apex it is. And then you can go, when you change little things on the fly and then you don't remember what it was, you have something you can reference. You can also, for the Apex, you can download a .bin file, which you can re-upload to the Apex, and it will replace everything with that state.
Wait, a .me?
Yeah, no, bin, B-I-N.
Oh, okay.
The problem is if you physically change where things go on the Apex and you do that, it's not going to work. You want to do the cut and paste. It could help you get back up to a state where you got most of your modules, but it might not. So it's a hedge, and it's not a perfect thing. You know, we all want, I would love, you know, there to be a cloud version of my Apex program that if something goes bork, it just fixes it. You know, I just re-upload it and it's all there, but that's not quite how Apex works. Sometimes you need to like unplug it and plug things in one at a time. But who cares? That's not the point. The point is, it's so cheap and easy and fast to have these two files floating around for when you need them or when you change something significant, that you should have them. So, disaster planning reminder. If you don't have some kind of battery backup at this point, you should. The EcoFlow River, they're so cheap, and they will at least keep your flow going for you, which is generally the thing you need for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. Get that. They're $100 or $200. Just, if you don't do that, you're crazy, in my opinion. And the same thing with this backup stuff. Have stuff around, you know, and you know, that you might need. And of course I'm yelling at myself. I need to get through and relabel everything again. It's time. I need everything relabeled. It's the same thing. You gotta kind of keep up on this stuff. And if you leave it for a big project, you're never going to do it. So
take some time and think about your system and realize what parts of it, if they borked, would fuck you.
Yeah.
And then have those on hand, because if they bork and you're like, oh, I better call up saltwateraquarium.com and get that ordered. Do you have that much time to wait for that thing? Order it now.
Yeah. So heaters, right? That's what I need to order. I didn't order them. I need to, because I used my last one. Heaters. I always have some pumps around, some AxiJets and some bigger things around. I've got probes around. Just one, you know, I really only need one of those things. I got backup pumps. I've got backup lights. We said heaters.
If you own a doser, order. You can almost always, with every brand, I think you can get the extra doser head, put it in a Ziploc bag, thumbtack it by the doser. Because like you were just saying, so imagine you look at your Apex and it's like, oh, the aquarium's a little cooler than I thought. What the heck's going on? Check the heater. It's dead. Oh crap, what do I do? Okay, unplug it. Oh yeah, I got heaters in the closet. Go grab the heater, put it on there. Cool, we're done.
Right. And if that happened on a Saturday night, you wouldn't be done. You would be panicked all freaking night. Right. A lot of people think, oh, I'll just go to the store when I need it. Well, it's not going to break on, you know, Tuesday afternoon when you can get off work and go to the store and get what you need. It's going to break in the middle of the, you know, when the bridges have exploded and you can't get anywhere. And that's, you know, so
Murphy is cruel.
It pays to have that stuff laying around. There was one other piece, you know, salt. You want to have some salt around. I'm so panicked that I've got 200 gallons of fresh water and like 500 or 700 gallons of salt water around all the time, just because it makes me relax more knowing that Bob is coming. I've got new water. And if there's something I need to do, I can.
God, imagine if you had in a scenario where you had to change a lot of water fast and you didn't have it. Dude, you don't want to live. You don't want to live in that reality. It's not fun.
It's not fun. I've been in that reality. It sucks. Updating stuff. So your controllers and stuff, they come out with updates, right? This is my practice and my protocol for updates. I update Monday or Tuesday in the morning when I know that if that I can get help if I need it. I see so many people do an update, and updates are not magic. Sometimes things work when there's updates. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes just how you update is just the fact that you've updated can do weird stuff, right? And I don't want to get into an argument about it should or you shouldn't have to do that. It should be easier. Of course, it all should be easier. Of course, it should be magical updates that nothing ever goes bad, but having grown up with computers, when updates will explode your computer and make it not work again, not even talking about controllers, phones, so many things with updates in the past, for the past 30 years, have been so problematic when you update that, I will never update my computer software on a Friday afternoon. You're out of your mind.
Richard.
Yeah.
This is too on the nose. Do you know I'm actually caught in that situation right fucking now?
What did you do?
So Apex had those two the two updates back to back. And so on Saturday night, oh, this is so dumb, but I'm being honest here.
That's what we do here. We can call you stupid, and we don't really mean you're stupid. We mean you're big dummy, and let's not do this again.
Yeah. So I looked on my client list of the Apexes, on my account, and so some of them were yellow and it said update available, did the back to back. So what I don't like is here's another point of advice. Probably don't update your tank if you're not standing in front of it. Because I updated it off site, and then so I'm having a client that they have an Apex, they have an MXM, and they have 3 Radions, and it threw their Radions into a tizzy to the point of one of them's not even coming on. And it can be weird things like if in Mobius, one of the Radions wanted to be updated itself, but you go through and you update the Apex, but you didn't update the Radion in Mobius first, and then it sort of gets locked up, and then you have to reset by pressing the buttons. But now one of the Radions won't even come on, and now the middle Radion is saying it's missing. And so I'm telling the client yesterday, I was like, find the little thing on the head unit and poke. No. So we reset it, and then it said the left one, and now he's manually plugging and unplugging the far left one. So Monday morning, I have to go over there and get an Ecotech person on the phone and troubleshoot. Why is this far right one is acting dead? I even had him on the power bricks. One of the power bricks is running really hot. And so I said, I had him switch all the cords so the different ones are running different power bricks. And that far right one is still borked. And I'm just like, why did I? Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm living this.
I'm gonna make you feel even stupider. Are you ready? And you shouldn't feel stupid because you're still figuring out the reality of Apex, right? Whenever Apex has an update, there are notes on the Apex site, or even on the Apex itself, I think, that will tell you what this update is for. Right? So if there's an update and the update notes say it's for the new version, gives compatibility and programmability to the new dose that's coming out. If I don't have a new dose, I'm not updating it. Right?
For some reason, I have it stuck in my head that it's like, yeah, because I saw that. And so I see what you're saying. If the update notes say things that don't pertain to you, hold off.
Right. Now, here's another trick. Yeah. And why do you hold off? You watch the Million Monkeys and see. Don't watch the Million Monkeys on like the Neptune Facebook. That's just a bitch.
It's frustrating.
Just keep your mind out. And again, and we're not talking about shoulds here. Don't get caught up in how things should be. Get over it. We're talking about how things are and how to make you not go crazy. If you want to live in a world where you're mad because the Apex, because you know your phone won't do something you want it to do, and it shouldn't. It seems simple to you. That's a weird place, I think, to live. But if you want to live there, go ahead, live there. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about making it work with what we've got, right? So, let the million monkeys play with it and see if there's a real issue rears its head or not. And you can give the company who's doing I don't want to just pick on Neptune, whatever company is doing the update, you can give them a chance to find out if there's a problem with the update. Then they have a second update that's better than the first one, and then you're all good. I updated. There's also, you know, if you're in the know at all, you know that there's an NSI going on. So there may be updates that are happening for NSI people, which is their beta testing group, right? So I did the update, and the update was fine. I had no problems with the update. I did it on just this one system for exactly that reason. And I did it, you know, I did it on a Monday morning. It came out on Friday, and I wrote, I'm not updating till Monday morning in case, because it's the NSI, if they wanted it to happen then somebody could be ready if I had a problem and I could call them. They didn't. Great. I did it Monday. And then it popped up that 4 of my modules are out of date. And because I read the notes, I know it's the 4 doses that are on this system, and I'm not updating them. I actually asked them, I said, do you guys want me to update these now or not? And they said, no. They said, we don't care. I said, great, then I'm going to let it ride, because I don't need to change something that's already working if it's not actually going to do something I need. There's no change to the doses I have. It's for the new doses. So I don't need to change the firmware. So check your update, do your update in a responsible time when you can get help if something goes all to hell. Do your update when you need to and not when you don't need to, and make a decision if you need to or not, and let it float for a little bit. You know, I remember the days when Apple would update. It's like, oh no, there is no way I'm updating my iOS 6 or whatever, or my, you know, whatever they used to call it, because people would get all kinds of problems every time they updated their phone. That's all worked out now. It doesn't seem to cause problems, but everything else is not at the same level as computers are.
Richard, I hate to make the show last longer than, I mean, we're already running long, but did you just see me look off in the distance and go, oh my God?
What'd you do?
I just sort of had an epiphany, because so when that update came through, it said, you know, the Apex needs a different iOS or whatever it is. So you do that, and then when you go back into it, it lets you know, it said there's a module running that needs to be updated, and it was dose, and that's what I updated. What are the chances that it borked that dose for a little bit and it didn't follow my protocol of the dose, and it did truly run a bunch of Kalkwasser into that system? But again, my brain has a problem with that, because if it spiked to 12, it just really feels like that I would have gone there and there'd be like scale all over the inside of the aquarium.
Yeah, and it didn't just spike. It's thick, so it's a couple hours. It didn't, and then it spiked again. I'm looking at the graph now. It went up to like 9.2.
It like camel humped.
And then it went up again, and then it dropped. So that says to me probably something goofy's going on with the probe.
Okay.
Because usually your pH would not come down that fast if it actually went up that high.
It'd linger for a little bit.
Yeah, it's possible. So that just reinforces the other thing that you said. For a system like an Apex, you absolutely want to be there when you update it. If something goes wrong, you want to be there to see it. And when an Apex updates, it turns off all the lights, and then it clicks, and it does all kinds of things, and it can take 3 or 4 minutes, and it can be nerve-wracking because, oh my God, what's happening? But, you know, just do it, and then give it 5 more minutes before you look at anything, because let the system get a hold of itself. But definitely be there. You're nuts if you're not there.
I chuckle at myself, but I'm in a weird part of me is like happy to be recording this and showing people this as an example, because blah, 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 30 years of experience, sort of shame on me for updating something when I'm not standing in front of it. Well, but it's a learning lesson.
It is, and it's the shoulds and it's the expectations, right? The advertising is all of this stuff works, right? This is the best thing ever. Mostly in your life, you just update stuff now and it works just fine, right? So I can see it. You know, that's you know, that's why I can't be screaming at you, you stupid idiot. It's like, yeah, big dummy. You should know that, but you didn't, and I understand it. So it's, you know, those things that are obvious and when you know them, as soon as you know them, you go, of course I shouldn't be updating this when I'm not there. Of
But
course
it's
not.
real too, which is get me out this soapbox, but it's real too. Like all these, I'm not trying to just shame on people, but I'm just you know, a lot of the other YouTube channels where people are just sort of hawking stuff for a company, but this shit is real. Like we're sitting here admitting like real things and being real people, because you know, some people watch these and like, oh, Richard has all this experience and Ben has all this experience. Like, dude, I just don't think that there's anyone out there running perfect reef tanks and making perfect choices constantly. It's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Well, you know why I'm on this backup. You remember why I'm on this backup your Apex, backup your programming stuff? It's because I screwed it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I screwed it up. Oh, also, before you hit update, back up those 2 files.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just hit update, didn't back up the 2 files. Something goofy happened. Something truly goofy happened with my Apex. And then I was on the phone with them for an hour or 2 fixing it, and it was great. But it was goofy. And first goofy thing since 2016, you know, major bork kind of. It turned out there was just some bork, you know, we're asking it to do something weird, you know, in the first place, and my system's distributed and crazy, and so, you know, stuff's going to happen. So,
Oh man, yours is your display for your Apex is so complicated. If something went haywire on that, I'd jump off a building
yeah,
because I wouldn't know where to start.
I got to go through and rearrange it, um, and then make a tabula rasa with what each thing actually is. In fact, what I'll probably do is I will just print out one of those PDFs and I'll make notes on that, so it's all in one place. Or I'll just make notes in the PDF. That's a better idea. So I don't want that get lost. Before you do an update, back it up. Like, I got to update my computer. I'm going to back it up before I do the update. That's just best practices. But you know, with the Apex, that may not be such a thing that pops to people's minds. So I'm just saying, if you're here at this show and you've gotten this far into it, you're probably the kind of person who wants to just back that stuff up before you do stuff. Thank you, Beefers. We would certainly appreciate your support and being part of the community. The community on Discord is so great. I'm really enjoying that community so much. And I'm really enjoying the cross-pollination that's happening with us and with other groups like Kalamazoo Reefer and with Jim Graham. And there was somebody else, with Salem. It's just really fun. So I dig it there. I dig listening to you guys. I dig reading it, and your support's really helpful. If you really want to support, apparently, besides buying us coffee or beer, I think it's beer now, or becoming a member, which gets you into the members side of the Discord, liking and sharing. Sharing is probably really a really good one, or commenting down below is very helpful. And yeah, we really appreciate you. So thank you very much. And with that, Ben and I would like to thank saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting and Supply, and PolypLab for powering us. So thank you all, and have a good week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks to our Prime and Gold level beefers for Hod, Joe's Coral Reef, Ben Day, Bay Area Reefers, Francois, Jason, Rich, James, Scott, Jim, John, Adam, and Robert.
Oh, and Snowman, sorry, this is just Richard and I spitballing. This, I don't think we're intending this to be in the show. So don't.
Oh, definitely not. Do.
My goddamn mustache won't stay on, Richard. It's either a pimp hat or Woody from Toy Story.
Now I'm just like, oh, let me move my thing.
Now I have butterflies in my hair. Is that macropharyngedon on your right shoulder? A busy wrasse in the very corner.
There's some blue leopard wrasse.
Yeah.
And then do this goddamn show.
Relax, go to it when you want to suck to it.
When you want to come.
Who is that? Adam Ant?
No.
Yeah.
Fuck, no, it's not Adam Ant, you idiot.
No, Adam Ant.
It's not Adam Ant.
I swear to God.
You're wrong.
It's not Devo.
It's not Devo.
Adam Ant. I swear to God.
It's not Adam Ant.
Give me a clue.
Nope.
Unreasonable is when you look like a sun-kissed orange. Wow. What? That's so far past reasonable. I sort of like it. You look like Red Hulk.
I am.
You look like every picture of every coral online.
There.
There you go.
Early coral photographs.
Yeah.
Today's coral photographs.
Exactly.
Buy me because you know what it is. Buy me because you see these colors.
Yes.
Okay,
and it won't look like that when you get
let's not do that. Yeah, that's awful, and Snowman's gonna stab you in the fucking head.
It's so awkward to admit on camera. No,
it's not. Most men that look like you have a little thing.
Overcompensating.